Very good evening and welcome to another edition of Primetime News on TV1. Let's start off with a look at your top stories for tonight.
More than 1,000 cases of COVID-19 reported today as well. Patients receiving treatment at hospitals exceed 10,000. Why didn't authorities take action to detect the UK COVID-19 variant early on? Chinese Minister of Defence concludes his two-day visit. Meeting between Indian High Commissioner to Sri Lanka and Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa.
Another record-breaking number of COVID-19 cases were detected from the island today. Today's daily tally of COVID-19 cases in Sri Lanka stood at 1,491 cases. 362 patients were discharged after making a full recovery. Against such a backdrop, a number of Gram Seva divisions in the Trincomalee district were isolated since this morning. Here is a comprehensive update of the COVID-19 situation here in Sri Lanka.
The Sumedagampura, Mahamayapura, Koviladi and Linganagar Gram Seva divisions under the Upaveli police jurisdiction in the Trincomalee district were isolated since this morning. Commander of the Sri Lanka Army, General Shavendra Silva, said that Kawachikoda and China Bay Gram Seva divisions of the China Bay police jurisdiction have also been isolated after several COVID-19 cases were detected.
After assessing the daily report, there is a possibility that certain areas will be placed under lockdown. Areas where a significant number of COVID-19 patients are identified from may be isolated.
Currently, about 30 Gram Seva divisions in 9 districts have been placed under isolation. Police operations were conducted across the island today as well to ensure that the general public is adhering to COVID-19 health guidelines. Those entering and exiting the Western Province were inspected in Nitambua today. People who were not adhering to COVID-19 regulations were strictly advised to do so. Special operations were conducted in the Paduka town to enforce COVID-19 regulations. According to our correspondent, people who failed to wear face masks were tested for COVID-19. In Maligavatta, the police conducted operations in search of those who failed to wear face masks. Meanwhile, steps have been taken to conduct random antigen tests at 12 locations where people enter and exit the Western Province. Meanwhile, Sri Lanka Railways has decided to suspend 13 intercity and long-distance train operations. The suspension comes amid a low number of ticket bookings given the present COVID-19 situation in the country.
Is there an increase of cases?
A total number of 1,466 cases of COVID-19 were reported from the country yesterday. Out of the total number of cases reported yesterday, a majority has been reported from the Colombo district. With the discovery of 6 more COVID-19 related deaths yesterday, the total number of COVID-19 deaths in the country rose to 661. The total number of COVID-19 cases in the country has increased to 104,953. The total number of recoveries in Sri Lanka has risen to 95,083. According to the Ministry of Health, patients currently receiving treatment in the country has increased to 9,205. According to the statistics, in comparison to the number of patients who are receiving treatment in hospitals, the number of patients who have been discharged from hospital are low.
Is the capacity at hospitals at a sufficient level?
State Minister of Primary Healthcare, Epidemics and COVID Disease Control, Dr. Sudarshini Fernandopoulos, said that the government is focusing on transforming the quarantine centres currently in operation to intermediary hospitals. Adding further, the State Minister said it had been decided to renovate a shutdown factory in the Gampaha district as a treatment facility to treat COVID-19 patients.
Is there a change in treating COVID-19 patients?
We advise
the specialist to create a protocol to treat the patients. Every patient does not have to be admitted to the ICU. If we can identify the first stage symptoms and the impact the virus has on the respiratory system, we provide them oxygen and reduce the complications that arise from the virus. So that protocol will be made by the specialist doctors and they will hand it over to hospitals. According to that proposal, the doctors will be able to determine the times they have to admit the patients to the normal wards, the high dependency unit and the ICU.
Dependency unit දාන්න ඕනේ කොයි අවස්ථාවේද ICU දාන්න ඕනේ කියන ඒ පිළිබඳව කටයුතු කරනවා.
What will happen to the COVID-19 vaccine?
The remaining Oxford AstraZeneca doses in the country that were brought from India will be administered to the healthcare workers as the second dose. The vaccine was administered to the staff members of the Lady Ridgeway and Ragama teaching hospitals today. Prison officials too were inoculated with the second dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine today. The Prisons Department confirmed that 5,153 prison officials are to receive the second jab of the vaccine. As of yesterday, 3,445 individuals were inoculated with the second dose.
We brought the Covishield vaccine from the Serum Institute in India. It is difficult for us to expect a batch of Covishield vaccine from India anytime soon, given the state in India. Moreover, under the COVAX facility, prominent health organizations like the Gavi organization, UNICEF and WHO bought and distributed the vaccine to countries. But even they have been unable to purchase the Covishield vaccine. Amidst a situation like that, we can't expect to get the Covishield vaccine anytime soon. However, discussions are underway to bring the vaccine as soon as possible. Research is being conducted into the mix and match vaccines option, which means administering one dose with one vaccine and the second dose with another vaccine. If it is confirmed that these patients can be given a different vaccine, we will be able to give it to them as the second dose. If that is the case, we will be able to forget the first vaccine and administer two doses.
Meanwhile, individuals suspected to have contracted the UK COVID-19 variant were identified from Kalutara and Galle districts.
When was the UK COVID-19 variant first identified in the country?
According to Dr. Chandima Jeevandara, the variant was identified from a construction site in Boralaskamo on the 8th of April. He had further stated that the relevant authorities were informed of the case identified.
When did the UK variant begin to spread in Sri Lanka?
England cricketer Moeen Ali, who was on tour in the country, was identified as the first patient infected with this variant on the 13th of January. Professor Neelika Malavige of the Department of Immunology and Molecular Medicine at the University of Sri Jayawardhanapura stated that the COVID-19 variant, fast spreading in the UK, has been identified in several parts of the island.
How far has the UK COVID-19 variant spread in Sri Lanka?
Several cases were identified in certain areas. Looking at the other countries, we can say that the new variant has a greater ability to spread rapidly than the old variant.
With a variant like this having a greater transmissibility, can our country end up in a dangerous state like Europe?
Recently, many cases were identified in the UK and many people lost their lives. We saw a situation like that in Europe. Even though this variant spread in India, they managed to control it without a problem. There has not been a big problem in countries like Singapore, Thailand and South Korea. This is because they followed the proper protocols.
What kind of an impact has the UK COVID-19 variant had on Sri Lanka?
ඒක හින්දා වෙන්න පුළුවන් අපේ මේ දැන් ළඟකදී නම් ටිකක් අපිට අපි දකින්නවානේ ටිකක් අර රෝගීන් සංඛ්‍යාවත් ආසාදිතයන් සංඛ්‍යාවත් ලංකාවේ වැඩි වෙනවා.
The Health Promotion Bureau on its website has published data regarding PCR tests carried out in the recent past.
Why is it not available to the public, Dr. Sudha? Because this is a public issue, and why is it not available to the media?
Yeah, that's what is necessary is available in the situation report. You can have it there.
No, the age categories of the infection is not available.
Age categories that we have that are time to time published it. Right, we have given it so that because that this is actually that we are dealing with the pandemic. That we are working on that. At the same time that we are doing these things, that we are using this data for control of the disease.
It has not been controlled. The disease has not been controlled. Now see, the third wave has come and we are having 1,400 infections as of yesterday. So we have failed. We have failed. All the clinicians are saying that we have failed. And I have another question. Was the epidemiology unit told that there could be a new variant on April 8th? And what did they do about it? Give us some solid answers, Dr. Sudha.
If somebody talk unemotionally, because this is not a forum that educated people are.
This is an emotional forum because people are dying, Dr. Sudha.
So
and we are the ones who are taking the message to the public.
That emotional will not serve any purpose.
And why don't you answer the calls? call you.
That we are answering the calls, that we are getting hundreds of calls on a day, so that we can't call that at the same time that sometimes I get 2 calls.
Were you all informed on April 8th that there was a problem in Burlasdamo? Were you or were you not informed? Please answer the question.
Yeah, that's a stop. That is, there were that not even before that there were cases with the stroke shield. And this is that if you see the global scenario, that you can see that how this virus is behaving and what is happening. So it can't be something different in the Sri Lanka.
So if there was an stroke indication that there was a new variant, whatever the variant, what precautions were taken during the new year?
UK variant
Since the first time the UK variant was reported to be spreading across the world, we took necessary preventive measures. As a country, we must always look at balancing out the actions that we take. While continuing to sustain the economy and education in the country, we need to control the spread of the virus. That is what we are trying to do. With limited resources, we have brought this virus under control to the best of our ability. Anyone can look at this in different perspectives. Despite what anyone says, this is the reality.
Crisis situation. So why couldn't have we been more alert on April 8th?
When COVID-19 began, there was broad discussion regarding various predictive models. But none of these predictive models matched, and they will not match. We will assess the situation that arises, and based on that, we will take the necessary steps.
State Minister Sudarshani Fernandopulle said in Parliament that the spread of this virus could increase during the Sinhala and Tamil New Year and that it could result in a third wave. She also said that officials were informed to limit the movement of the general public. So based on these words, it was defeated. We would like to know who defeated it. Was this advice defeated in view of killing us, to kill the people of this country? Was this defeat the reason for the government to reduce the number of PCR tests conducted in the country during the first half of April? A poor farmer in Mimure inquired from the president on conducting PCR tests. The president responded, saying that now PCR tests are not important and the vaccines are important. Are the people who test positive for COVID-19 going to be vaccinated? We believe that the government has failed and that there is a massive opposition building up against the government from all fronts. It is hard to dismiss the fact that this government diverted all of this opposition towards the people of this country. We saw a similar thing happening in our neighboring country, India. Modi is an arrogant leader. He always failed to act in the best interest of the people. He worked according to the whims and fancies of the businessmen. The Kumbh Mela festival was held in India. The Indian leaders allowed these celebrations to go ahead. The leaders in Sri Lanka opened Sri Lankan borders. They allowed Udanga Veeratunga to engage in his hobbies. Is he responsible for making decisions on the lives of the people of Sri Lanka, or is it our leaders? The health authorities confirmed that some of these Ukrainian tourists who came to Sri Lanka tested positive for COVID-19. These people are bragging that they have enough ICU beds. But when 1,500 COVID-19 patients are being identified, is a mere 700 ICU beds sufficient? Not only they shamelessly promoted superstition among the general public, they promoted something called the Dhammikapaniya. It was said that at least 12 million people in Sri Lanka must be vaccinated to control the spread of the virus in Sri Lanka. We have health ministers in Sri Lanka, but the people are not healthy.
On the
8th of April, the government let the general public freely celebrate the new year, knowing this information. The government eased the restrictions on the 8th of April. They knew this variant is in Sri Lanka. On the 8th of April, the government allowed carnivals to take place in Sri Lanka. So the government can't blame the public for celebrating the new year.
Sri
Lanka has a population of around 22 million. Each person must be provided with 2 doses of the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine. Therefore, Sri Lanka requires around 44 million doses of the vaccine. However, only 1.2 million doses of the vaccine has been imported to the country. Due to the ineffective plan implemented by the government of Sri Lanka, the people who have received the first dose of the vaccine will not be able to receive the second dose on time. Today, the entire country is in fear of COVID-19. The hospitals are running out of ICU beds, nor do they have regular beds. They do not have medicine to treat patients. The entire health sector has collapsed. Initially, they said the second dose will be provided by mid-April. Now they are delaying it. The more they delay it, the more the immunity drops. President, the state sector has collapsed. State sector employees are not working. I would like to appeal to you, Mr. President, to hold a discussion with Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa, who has a sound knowledge on the matter, and ask your elder brother what can be done to solve this issue. This is not something that cannot be solved by this duo of brothers.
ඉල්ලුවොත් මං හිතන නරකද කියන එකයි මම ඔබතුමාගෙන් අහන්නේ. එහෙම නැත්නම් අපේ මහින්ද රාජපක්ෂ ඒ සහෝදරයාට මේ වගකීම් ගොඩාක් බාර දීලා මේක කරගෙන යන්න මම ජනාධිපතිකම දරන්න. ඔබ මේක කරගෙන යන්න කියන එකවත් නොකළොත් අපි ජනාධිපතිතුමනි සමහර නැත්නම් මේ රට කඩා හැලෙනවා. මොකද මේ බ්‍රිතාන්‍යයෙන් ආපු රැල්ලක් නෙමෙයි.
If not, the entire country would collapse. This is not a wave that came from the United Kingdom. This is highlighted by the media in the month of February. My strong request is to take all steps necessary to stop the spread of this virus. If the person who was brought by the people is being reprimanded, if the state sector has collapsed, we are stakeholders in this matter because we supported this government to come into power. I am currently preparing a book for the President, including all the letters that I receive on a daily basis. This is a book similar to the book containing Jataka tales of Lord Buddha. I will hand over to the President this book, which includes the plight of the people of this country. The country was open during the Sinhala and Tamil New Year, and people were allowed to roam free. These people had no sense to control the situation. They said everything was alright. But now they are saying that this virus is coming from the United Kingdom and other countries. I would like to, however, thank the media as they pointed out the possibility of these new waves. The media pointed out the adverse effects it could have on the country. But these warnings were not heeded and they began to even lash out against the media.
The overall death toll surpassed 200,000 in India yesterday, though experts believe the actual number could be higher. India's deadly COVID-19 second wave has devastated big cities like Delhi, Mumbai, Lucknow and Pune. Hospitals and crematoriums have run out of space and funerals are taking place in car parks. But the pandemic has now firmly gripped many smaller cities, towns and villages where the devastation is largely underreported. In total, India reported 379,257 new infections today, the world's highest single-day total. People in the Indian state of West Bengal are voting in the final phase of elections despite soaring COVID-19 cases. Long queues were seen outside polling booths, raising concerns about further spread of the virus amidst a deadly second wave. Experts fear West Bengal could be the next epicenter. Cases rose by 17,000, a state record. The state has already seen 7 phases of voting. According to foreign media, some of the biggest rallies, including those attended by Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, saw throngs of people not wearing masks or maintaining social distancing. The government had said that all adults will be eligible for COVID-19 vaccinations from the 1st of May, with online registration opening on the 28th of April. So far, India has been vaccinating health workers, frontline workers and adults over the age of 45. But less than 10% of the population has received an initial jab, and there are concerns about meeting demand. Although India is one of the world's biggest producers of vaccine, it does not yet have the stocks of roughly 600 million people who will be eligible from the 1st of May.
President Gotabaya Rajapaksa highlighted the fact that he will take on the challenge of making Sri Lanka the first country in the world that is free from chemical fertilizer. The President emphasized that he will not retract on the steps that he has taken. He made these statements at the Presidential Secretariat today.
A media briefing to raise awareness on the ban on the import of chemical fertilizers, weedicides and pesticides was held at the Presidential Secretariat today. The briefing was chaired by the President. We spent a large sum of money on the import of chemical fertilizers, weedicides and pesticides. This money can be invested in producing carbonic fertilizer in Sri Lanka, promote the production of carbonic fertilizer and promote the use of carbonic fertilizer among farmers. I have taken a strong decision to do this at all costs. There is a mafia for everything. This mafia is very strong. I said that we should do this a year ago. If this is not in our blood, we cannot do it. So you must make this apart from yourself. That is the main thing. So if you formulate the plan on how this should be done and want me as the president to do something, I am ready to do what it takes. Even if that means that I have to go to the farmers and explain to them how this is going to be done.
Chinese Defense Minister General Wei Fenghe concluded his official visit to Sri Lanka and left the country this morning.
Chinese Minister of Defense General Wei Fenghe arrived in the island for a two-day official visit on Tuesday night. Deputy Chief of Joint Staff Department of People's Liberation Army Lieutenant General Xiao Yuanming, Director General of Office of International Military Cooperation of Central Military Commission, Major General Zi Guowei, and a number of other high-ranking military personnel were also part of the visiting delegation. The delegation left the island this morning after concluding bilateral discussions. During his visit, General Wei Fenghe called on President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa yesterday and held bilateral discussions.
We thank Sri Lanka for standing up and speaking for China on issues related to Taiwan, Tibet, Xinjiang, and Hong Kong. As a good partner and friend, China will also offer continuous support to Sri Lanka on human rights and national reconciliation. Our two militaries have carried out fruitful cooperation in different fields. In this morning, I had a very candid and friendly discussion with His Excellency Mr. President and the Defense Secretary. And we have informed that the Chinese side would provide another 50 million RMB military assistance gratis to the Sri Lanka side. We have also witnessed the signing of military protocol to the total amount of 102 million RMB military aid in the year 2017 and 2019. And we had an in-depth exchange of ideas to further our military cooperation in this morning. We are ready to work together with Sri Lanka to deepen our military cooperation, to carry forward friendship, and to bring our mil-to-mil relation to a higher level.
A bilateral discussion between Sri Lanka and the People's Republic of China on the sidelines of official visit by Chinese State Councillor and Defence Minister General Wei Fenghe was held in Colombo yesterday, where the official signing of military assistance protocol took place. The agreement was inked by Defence Secretary General Kamal Gunaratne and the Director General of Office for International Military Cooperation of Central Military Commission, Major General Zi Guowei.
There are a number of ways in which we receive aid from China. We get grants from China. We also get credit lines. And we sign such an agreement. We are working on this matter as we speak.
Meanwhile, Indian High Commissioner to Sri Lanka, Gopal Bagle, held a cordial discussion with Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa today. Sources confirmed that the discussion focused on bilateral issues. Meanwhile, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa has addressed a letter to Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The President in his letter said that he has been observing with concern the situation in India that has brought about much suffering. The President in his letter informs the Indian Prime Minister that the Buddhist clergy in Sri Lanka plan to compassionately recite the Ratana Sutra to invoke blessings on the people of India. The President also expressed his deep gratitude to the Government of India on behalf of the people of Sri Lanka for the donation of 500,000 doses of the Maitri vaccine to Sri Lanka.
Senior media personality Kingsley Ratnayaka has been appointed as the media spokesperson of the President. He will assume duties on the 3rd of May.
One of the first members of Sirasa, Kingsley Ratnayaka, was a radio host with a broad range and in his years of service secured many prestigious accolades. Kingsley Ratnayaka, who also served in the capacity of an administrator, was highly decorated in the executive ranks of the Capital Maharaja Group. He reached the hearts of viewers and listeners alike on Sirasa TV and Sirasa FM. His recognition for the program Surya Sirasa is still fresh in the hearts of the people. Kingsley Ratnayaka, who hosts The Voice Sri Lanka, is a media personality who has a special place in the hearts of all Sri Lankans.
Still in local news, employees at the State Engineering Corporation staged a protest today alleging that their salaries have not been paid. According to our correspondent, the situation at the location escalated fast.
A protest was staged at the premises of the State Engineering Corporation. The protesters demanded a meeting with the chairman of the corporation to solve their salary issues. The situation at the premises escalated when security officials prevented them from meeting the chairman. The situation was brought under control after the police intervened. We have paid salaries at all our construction sites. Today we are paying the salaries of employees at our head office premises. So more than a salary issue, today it was an anti-government move to please their political leaders.
When the people are left to struggle by themselves and hope is all that remains, there's a movement that is of the people, a movement that walks from home to home, from village to village, covering thousands of kilometers, touching millions of lives. That movement is Gamadda. For the people, by the people, with the people. News First, the voice of the people.
Welcome back to the news. Convener of the movement of the protection of public rights, Asela Sampath, who was remanded and released on bail, is currently receiving treatment at a private hospital. He released a video statement on social media speaking of the experiences he faced inside prison. Now, in response to the allegations raised by Asela Sampath's daughter, the Department of Prisons said that if a complaint is lodged, an investigation into the matter can be carried out.
My daughter challenged before the media to look into how her father was assaulted in prison. What I am doing now is adding to that challenge against the government. I was assaulted in an inhumane manner. They beat my soles with a baton 10 times on the 20th at 9:30 in the morning. When I was taken into the Pallansena prison, they beat my back 5 times with a baton. I used my hand to defend myself. My hand was injured. They stripped me naked. They poked me with sticks. It was not doctors who did those things to me. This was done by inmates. The welfare officer who came to the Pallansena prison to make a phone call spoke to me indecently. I was taken to the Bogambara prison. I was stripped naked there as well. My hand was injured again, trying to defend myself. We were treated like animals. 8 inmates were given 1 plate and a glass for them to use. We had to stay in a 10 by 10 room and were given 2 buckets to urinate. I was granted bail on the 10th. I was not aware of that. The prison did not allow me to take a phone call from Saturday to Thursday. I was attacked again on the 20th in the morning. I was beaten on the soles and on the back. They have broken the feet of 6 other inmates who were imprisoned with me. 3 others were beaten along with me. The way inmates are treated is inhumane. The truth behind my statement cannot be verified until day after tomorrow. So I challenge the government, the President, Minister of Prisons to come with me to the Bogambara prison today and tomorrow. Yesterday, the media spokesperson of the prison said that a complaint has not been filed. There is no point of complaining to the prison regarding an assault that took place in the prison. If complaints work, we would have lodged one by now. Once I am released, I will reveal every piece of information.
In your sports news tonight, the second test between Sri Lanka and Bangladesh got underway today at the Pallekele International Cricket Stadium. When play was halted this evening, Sri Lanka were 291 runs for the loss of just 1 wicket. And that's a wrap of Primetime News on TV1 for tonight. To follow details of these stories and more, you can of course log on to our award-winning website www.newsfirst.lk. I'm Charlene Benedict for the News First team. Do take care and God bless.